So this practice has often been referred to as having two wings. The wing of love and the wing of wisdom. And for the bird to fly, for this practice to take off, for us to come into a place of greater expansion, greater freedom, greater joy, greater liberation, these two wings have to be balanced, the wing of love and the wing of wisdom. And they each support each other as well. So when one wing is developed, it supports the development of the other wing. And at some point, the bird gets so strong that it can actually take off and fly. So the wisdom wing is about seeing the three characteristics that we have explored. So seeing the truth of impermanence, anicca, seeing the truth of suffering, discontent, dukkha, and seeing the truth of not self, anatta. And when we see this, like we talked about yesterday, we really use the image of the hand, right? When we see the three characteristics with a lot of clarity, then at some point that tight grip releases. All the ways that we hold, all the ways that we contract, all the ways that we identify with, all the ways we try to gather me and mine and what I have, and as I talked about, it's all out of fear in some ways. It's all out of fear that we won't be safe. And so there's a strong habitual tendency to have this motion, to do this. And so with the wisdom, seeing clearly, there's the release of this hand. And in the release of this hand, that's holding on to me and mine and what I need to feel safe in this world. As we talked about, we can feel life much more intimately, and we are touched by life much more intimately. So in some ways, this opening of this hand is also an opening of the heart. So it's not just the mind understanding the three characteristics, it's actually the heart understanding it, breathing with it, opening to all life as it is. That's part of this process. So that's how wisdom can't only be a mind understanding. When it comes into a deeper place, it does become a heart understanding, a heart awakening as well. And as we talked about the heart practices, they're already feeling the sense of connection, they're already aspiring to have this boundless love, this loving of ourselves, this loving of all beings. Because we have the tendency to have this tight grip, the love supports safety, right? So if we just imagine, and I think we have this fear that if we open up, it's just going to be, very scary. But if we have this sense that there's an opening up to love as well, and an opening up into interconnection that supports that opening, right? So again, we think about, I use the image of falling asleep. And as you probably have all felt in your own life, times when we don't feel safe, we're not actually able to fall asleep, right? So again, there's this safety that supports the opening, that supports the releasing, that supports the releasing into a sense of safety. So that's how those two wings support each other, and how the wisdom supports the heart to go, and how the deepening of the heart supports a deepening of wisdom. And there's a quote I'm going to read that many of you probably have heard, but that really illustrates this well. And it's by Nasagata Maharaya. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right. It's an Indian guru. And he said, "Wisdom tells me I am nothing. Love tells me that I'm everything. And between the two, my life flows. Right? So there we have wisdom tells me I'm nothing. That's the anatta, not self, understanding. But with that understanding, there's also, on the other hand, this like deep care for the individual stream. We talked about the mind streams, right? So there's all the individual streams, and then there's the way they're all connected. And so even though there is this understanding of no core, it doesn't mean that there's no care. On the contrary, that understanding, wisdom tells me I'm nothing, in some ways supports this. And I really care about all the ways I'm scared, all the ways I'm contracted, all the ways that pain happens, all the ways that I'm confused. It doesn't lessen the compassion and the understanding of that. On the contrary, there's actually more care because we don't judge it and we don't make a self around it, but we care about it. So as the bird starts to take off and these two wings gets more balanced, and as we practice this together this weekend, we practice both parts of the wing, there are beautiful heart qualities that arise from that. You know, there are these beautiful aspirations and heart qualities that comes out of this practice. That's, you could say, it's the fruit of the practice. And one of the fruits is this metta, this loving kindness that opens up. And I wanted to talk about 3 other beautiful heart qualities that often grows out of this practice over time. And I think probably most of you already know them to some extent. So again, as this hand opens, there's a lot of energy that's tied into this hand. And as it opens, a lot of that energy can flow out, if that makes sense. Because we're not using so much energy to protect ourselves. And all that energy, again, can flow into this more generous, giving way of being in the world. So the first beautiful heart quality that I want to talk about is gratitude. And when we deeply see impermanence, we actually start to feel very grateful for life. So seeing impermanence doesn't mean that that we become indifferent to it. So seeing that everything, that life has an ending, that everything comes to an end, it actually increases our sense of preciousness, our sense of like, okay, when this is true, then each moment is very precious. Each moment is very important, right? So we all know this, like if we've gone through difficult times, we've gone through illness, or people we love, we've lost them. In the knowing of the ending of something, then the time we have becomes very important for us, becomes very precious for us. So that's part of what gives rise to this gratitude, is that we're not taking life for granted. We're not taking happy moments for granted. We're not thinking we're going to go and establish some happy life somewhere. And so that gives everything a real preciousness. And out of that comes this gratitude. And there's also a way that we can practice actively with gratitude, that we can start to bring it in as a practice in our daily life to, in some ways, remind us not to take this life for granted. So when we practice actively with gratitude, with practicing gratefulness, then that also brings preciousness into life. It reminds us that, that we can't take beautiful moments for granted. So some people, they have a gratitude journal. I think lots of you may have known this. Every day sitting down and writing down, things that you're grateful for in that day. And that, again, invites the mind to start noticing what's beautiful and preciousness, rather than always noticing what's not here, what's not going well, what is it that I don't want to be here. It in some way, it invites the mind to notice the beauty that's already here. And we can bring that attitude into our relationship with the environment. Right? So I sometimes wonder, I think sometimes we feel overwhelmed with climate crisis. I know I do. So there is a bit of tuning out that can happen in terms of our relationship with the natural world, with the environment. Because it's overwhelming to think about, what's actually happening, but can we use what's happening again to feel the preciousness of the natural world rather than tuning out? Can we actually let our hearts open to the fact that it's so fragile and that it's so tender what's happening to our climate, that we can feel touched by that and we can feel the preciousness around it, and we can feel a sense of gratitude, and out of that gratitude we may also have other actions that may in small ways invite us to be with the environment in a more caring way, because we feel the gratitude and because we're not tuned out. So that's one potential. The next beautiful heart quality I wanted to mention is renunciation. So that may sound really boring or dry, but it can be a really beautiful practice. So as we deeply see the suffering inherent in trying to secure happiness through things, through experiences, through material possessions, there's actually a quite natural letting go of that happens. Because we understand for ourselves that it doesn't matter how many things we have, it doesn't matter how much we accumulate, it's not going to actually support a deeper and more lasting sense of happiness. And seeing that there's a letting go that happens, there's a renunciation that happens, a natural renunciation that happens of this gaining way of being in the world. So you coming here this weekend was an act of renunciation. Right? So you renounced other things that could have happened this weekend to come here. So that's already a way that you are renouncing, typical ways that we seek happiness to take the time to be here. So that's also what's meant by renunciation, that we let go of things that are giving us our usual sense of happiness to look for a deeper way into a deeper lasting sense of happiness. That's part of this renunciation. So there's a natural letting go of renunciation that happens when we see things with wisdom, when we see things clearly. And at the same time, the act of renunciation is also support for the practice. So the Buddha put a lot of emphasis on renunciation, or it's called sila, and really invited us to create the supportive conditions for us to support our practice. And that requires some level of letting go. So several of you were curious about, how do I establish a daily practice? And part of it might be to think about, what can I renounce? How can I simplify my life so I make space for the practice? Right? So again, the renunciation is in some ways, when it's in terms of this practice path, it's about what can I let go of so that I make space for my practice, so that I make space for what's really important for me to develop my practice. So that might be a question for you. How do I simplify my life? What are some of the extra things that I do that I can let go of? The last beautiful quality that I wanted to talk about is generosity. And again, I feel like that this is often a natural development that comes out of this practice. Again, as we are no longer so involved with gaining for ourselves, the heart wants to naturally move into a place of service. What can I offer rather than what can I get? And the thing is with generosity that it's not tied to outcome. It's not about now I give something so I can give something back. When there's this true generosity, it's really free of whatever is happening with the gift that you're offering, because the gift is in the giving. So that the giver is receiving a gift through the giving, the act of giving. It's interesting because I was thinking about, I use now that several times I was talking about how scratching my arm doesn't help the itch on someone else's arm. But with this generosity, it's actually a little different, because the giving to someone else actually does give back to myself. It's a deep sense of interconnection where, in some ways, it doesn't matter who's giving and receiving, because the giver is just as fed by the giving as the receiver is fed by the giving. And the Buddha actually talked about how important it is to be able to receive a gift. That's part of that cycle of giving and receiving, is that we're able to receive the gift with gratitude. So the cycle isn't complete before there's a full giving and receiving that happens, and there's a cycle of gratitude and generosity that continues. So the teaching about generosity is really an ingrained part of the Buddha's teachings, and it's tied to the teachings about karma, that all our actions and all our intentions have consequences. And so some of our actions have painful consequences. Some of our intention leads to suffering states. And some of our intention and actions leads to joyful, peaceful states. And there's a deep teaching about how generosity leads to peaceful states and happy states. I've traveled several times in Burma, Myanmar, and in Burma, Myanmar, that's so deep in the culture. This whole teaching about generosity, and it's so interesting to see, because the people are so happy about the giving, and everybody wants to give because they feel the gift for themselves. So they're so eager to offer. It's a very different way of being with this act of generosity and this act of giving. So they are lining up to give because they feel the benefit within their own heart from the act of giving. So they're very eager to give. And one thing I noticed in Myanmar is that the giving and receiving always happens with two hands, which is so beautiful, right? To me, it's about mindfulness. It's like, as you give something, you use your full attention, you use your full hands, you're fully there. And as you receive something, you use both hands. So that brings, again, I'm tearing up here, that brings the importance to that moment, right? It's an important moment. There's an exchange here. And we want to be really with it. We want to be really awake here. We want to be really mindful with this beautiful interconnection. Another beautiful thing they do in Myanmar is that whenever something really joyful happens in someone's personal life, they have a lot of bells around the temples, then they will ring the bell to share the merit, to share the benefit of whatever joy has happened in their own life. And through the ringing of the bell and the vibrations of the bell, when it touches other people's ears, they are receiving the merit of that joyful event. And also when they give, there's an act of generosity. Because they really believe that it is beneficial for their own mind stream. Right away they go and they ring the bell to share the merit that comes from it. So it's a beautiful, beautiful way of being with it. So this whole system of dana that the Buddha's teaching is based on these teachings around generosity. And so when the teachings are offered, it really is without expectations. There are no expectations of a return. It's a freely offered gift. And that's incredibly freeing, right? So there's a joy in the giving. Sitting here and being with all of you, that's a gift to this being as well, to offer these teachings to you. I feel deeply enriched by having had the opportunity to share with you. That's deeply rewarding. And for everybody that supported the retreat here, you may also feel, you may be a bit tired now, but you may also feel the benefit of the giving. So these teachings have survived all these years because of this dana system, where there's this free act of giving and where there's no expectations of any return. And at the same time, the dana system works in a system of interdependence, where each part of the system relies on each other. So the teachings have survived, again, because of this mutuality in the giving and the receiving. That hearing the teachings and feeling the benefit for yourself, there can be a calling to offer forward in some ways, either to the person that has offered the teachings or in some other ways. If financial means is not possible, there may be a calling to offer dana in some other ways, to say, let it grow, let the teachings grow. Let me not keep them to myself. Let me ring the bell and let them spread out in all directions so that as many people can benefit as possible. So that's my invitation for all of us to we can think about how we together can express generosity and can engage in this dana system so that these teachings can continue on. The last thing I want to do is I want to read, I hope I am pronouncing it right, the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving Address. Haudenosaunee People's Thanksgiving Address. And I think I'm not pronouncing it right, and I wish I had practiced before sitting here and saying it out loud. I want to say one of my mentors, one of the Dharma teachers that's supporting me is a First Nation Dharma teacher. Her name is Bonnie Duran. And I asked her how she felt about me sharing this Thanksgiving address. And she really encouraged me to do it. She said she thought that would be very honoring. So just to say that I feel supported in offering this to you. So it's called The Words Before All Else, and it's a greeting to the natural world. And for these people, it's a central prayer and an invocation that happens before each social gathering and at the ending of each social gathering. So I thought it would be beautiful for us to learn from these teachings. And just as a little aside, so Bonnie said, go ahead, I think this would be really beautiful. It would be really a good extension of this retreat. But then she also sent me a cartoon, which I thought I want to share because it's really funny, so I'm going to try to speak it. So it's two indigenous people sitting together, and one is reading a newspaper, and as he's reading, he's saying, oh, in the news, he's saying, wow, listen here, nature is complex, it's interwoven, and it's interconnected. They just found out. Isn't that amazing? And then the other First Nation person says, no way, what will they discover next? So I thought, again, just to honor that, we have this retreat now, and it's very current in our times now to be opening to nature and exploring interconnection, and again, just to say this is not new. There's been peoples on this earth that has really been practicing deeply in this way for much longer than many of us. So I'm so thankful for these teachings that we get to listen to. So I'm going to invite us to take it in as a practice. So if you want to, you can keep your eyes open or close your eyes, but again, listen in a meditative way. So the words before all else, greetings to the natural world. The people. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living beings. So now we bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. The earth. We are all thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all what we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. The waters. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms, waterfalls and rains, mist and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the spirit of the water. Now our minds are one. The fish. We turn our minds to all the fish in the water. They were instructed to cleanse and purify the water. They also give themselves to us as food. We are grateful that we can still find pure water. So we turn now to the fish and send our greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. The plants. Now we turn towards the vast field of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. They sustain many life forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come. Now our minds are one. The food plants. With one mind, we turn to and honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people to survive. Many other living things draw strength for them too. We gather all the plant foods together as one and send them a greeting of thanks. Now our minds are one. The medicine herbs. Now we turn to all the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy that they're still among us to those special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and the keepers of the medicines. Now our minds are one. The animals. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as a people. We're honored by them when they give up their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forest. We're glad they're still here, and we hope they will always be so. Now our minds are one. The trees. We now turn our thoughts to the trees. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some provide us with shelter and shade, others with fruit, beauty, and other beautiful things. Many people of the world use a tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree life. Now our minds are one. The birds. We put our minds together as one, and we thank all the birds who move and fly about over our heads. The Creator gave them to us, gave their beautiful songs to us. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. The four winds. We're thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help us to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our greetings and thanks to the four winds. Now our minds are one. The thunderers. Now we turn to the west, where our grandfathers, the thunder beings, live. With lightning and thundering voices, they bring with them the water that renews life. We're thankful that they keep those evil things made by Ockwisers underground. We bring our minds together as one to send greetings and thanks to our grandfathers, the thunderers. Now our minds are one. The sun. We now send greetings and thanks to the eldest brother, the sun. Each day, without fail, he travels over the sky from the east to the west, bringing the light of a new day. He is the source of all the fires of life. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our brother, the sun. Now our minds are one. Grandmother Moon. We put our minds together to give thanks to the oldest grandmother, the moon, who lights the nighttime sky. She is the leader of women all over the world, and she governs the movement of the ocean tides. By her changing face, we measure time, and it is the moon who watches over the arrival of children here on earth. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our grandmother, the moon. Now our minds are one. The stars. We give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them in the night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bringing dew to the gardens and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered together as one, we send greetings and thanks to the stars. Now our minds are one. The enlightened teachers. We gather our minds to greet and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help us through the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us the way we were instructed to live as people. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers. Now our minds are one. The Creator. Now we turn our thoughts to the Creator, our Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need in life to have a good life here on Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. Now our minds are one. Closing words. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one.